Both teams to the preliminary rounds of MSCC 2024. So before proceeding to the housekeeping rules, just a quick introductions from the panel just here. My name is Bob, I'm from Sumatera Utara, and I'm now going to welcome my panelists to introduce themselves on the left. Hi, I'm from Anastasia from Alright, and from my right. Alright, cool. So since here are three panels here, so please just refer to us as a member of the house or panels as a whole. Please don't have any generalizations or specific pronouns as we are not having any. So before that, in terms of housekeeping rules, since this is like an MSA debate, please try to accept an offer POI, and after that, because we're going to talk about the elder care of families or not, please try to remain equitable as much as possible. And then please indicate if you have any specific gender pronouns, but if there is none, just refer to your opponents as propositions or oppositions as a whole as well. That would be marvelous. That being said, I think that because this is live stream, please talk in an audible volume so that the audience at home can listen to you clearly as well. That being said, we wish you the best of luck for wonderful debate and we call on the first speaker for today. Here.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels. This is this House opposed motion, in which meaning we're not supposed to provide any alternative to this stigmatization. Our burden of proof is to justify why it's not right and why it's wrong to stigmatize. Now, onto the problems of the status quo. Now, the problem of people who send their elders to nursing homes or getting on outsourcing their caretaking to a nurse, for example, gets labeled as being as ungrateful children or even sometimes evil due to how Asian societies perceive these familial values. Now, how did this problem came to be and why is it actually harmful to stigmatize them? Now, of course, we know the existence of Asian tiger parenting, in which this exists to a narrative of paying back what you owe to your parents. Now, why exactly is this payback narrative actually harmful for these people? And why is it actually controversial? Firstly, it creates expectations which leads to burden towards these people, which makes them feel disconnected or alienated sometimes with their parents, in which they don't even want to. It will make them less likely to even less likely to even visit them if they've already sent them to these nursing homes, in which our solution to this problem is to erase the stigma entirely. In which why do we say this is justified? Firstly, it's their choice. They've already been burdened with so many things, with expectations, with work hours, taking care of their own families and their own mental health. They also have to take care of their own parents. In which why is it wrong for them to outsource that in order to alleviate some of their own burdens? Secondly, these elders in these specific places would actually feel more safer. Why do we say this? First, when they're surrounded with people their age, they'll have more chances to connect with them, to make friendships, to connect with people their own age, in which their self-fulfillment would actually be better on our side, in which they're not stigmatized and their family could still visit them in these nursing homes. Secondly, activities provided by the nursing homes, in which the nursing home, of course, to keep these people healthy and live long, they will give them activities like cooking, gardening, or even playing bingo. All of this will give them happiness to these people, in which they have their time being spent, and their time being spent is actually being used towards self-fulfillment. Now, so why is self-fulfillment really necessary in these people? Because we already know that will is the thing that drives us to keep alive, in which people need to feel constantly happy. They need fulfillment in their lives. when you're at home, yes.
How can you claim that they will be happy or just to play to do the activities that are in these nursing homes when they are away from their children, and you claim that they're just that they basically yeah.
All right. Now answering the POI simply. These activities are specifically catered. We have to understand the characterization of nursing home. Firstly, they are trained. These people are not just random people taken without background checks. They are trained to specifically know how to handle these elders. They're also made to cater them, in which these activities are designed and are catered towards these old people. Why do we say that it's often? Because firstly, we already said that they're surrounded by people their own age, in which these nurses also provide them with activities. And in cases of which they get sickness, they'll have an easier access to first aid or even access to hospitalization because simply when they're in this institution, they're more likely to be to have a faster connection with hospitals and etc. compared to when they're at their homes, in which people are working, in which the parents are working. We have to understand this that this cases does not go only to the super wealthy that can provide really good really nursing homes. This also affects those in the middle class, in which we've already said how it's better for them to be in this nursing home. Now, on the cases of hiring a private caretaker to take care of them. Now, firstly, why is caretakers good and their characterization? Firstly, these caretakers are trained to actually handle old people, which is really important in assessing how they might react, how these elders might treat them, and etc. And second, they're backed by an institution. You don't hire someone you don't know, and of course, there's background checks done to these caretakers to make sure that there is actual that they are actually qualified to do these jobs. Now, continuing to the practicals, we've already set our principles of why it's wrong to stigmatize them. Now onto the practicals. Now, with the removal of the stigmatization, this will reduce the amount of the payback narrative that we've already explained and how harmful it is. It will reduce the amount of it in which it will lead to more connectivity. People will be less likely to be stigmatized to visit their parents, and therefore, parents and their child could actually still meet each other without the stigmatization of the world, of the Asian societies. Now, let's weigh the cases of their side and our side. Our worst case, which is less likely, I will explain later. Our worst case is once in a million there might be an accident that leads to illness, or maybe leads to maybe sickness and etc. How less likely would this to happen? Firstly, because these people are trained, they know how to respond to certain accidents, and therefore the impact of these accidents will be lessened. Secondly, there's institution to act as a safety net of understanding how of actually getting the paybacks from these if these accidents actually do happen, and therefore the families that the accident happened to actually does receive the good payments and the good retributions for these accidents to happen. Now, under worst case of the opposition, in which the stigmatization is now apparent and now the stigmatization is normalized, in which people are now stigmatized to even send their parents to nursing homes, and those who already send them before this narrative, even before the stigmatization becomes apparent, now don't want to visit their parents anymore because of the stigmatization themselves. They don't want, because of the heavy burdens and the heavy backlash of being labeled as evil or ungrateful. We've already seen how this happens, how this is worse and more likely to happen due to the existence and the perpetuation of the stigmatization of these people that wants to care for their parents throughout their own busy schedules, as I've already said. Now, what we've contributed to this debate. We've already told you on what exactly happens on the current status quo, in which the existence of these labels and the stigmatization towards people who send their parents towards nursing homes are actually harmful. As we've already explained, the justifications of these people to send their people to send their elders towards nursing homes, and we've already said how exactly the elders would react to this, and why exactly is the nursing homes a good place to send them, and the characterizations of both of every actors of this debate. Proud to propose.
I claim the first proposition for that wonderful remark, and to start the case of the opposition, I call the first comment.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In the current status quo, mainly in countries in the West or westernized countries, the elderly members of a family are often sent to elderly care centers or elderly homes for them to be taken care of by others. In this case, the volunteers or workers of the said elderly care center or home. This happens because these said elderly members of a family do not have any family members who are willing to take their time and energy to take care of them. The elderly, therefore, they are just sent off to be someone else's responsibility. Our proposition have argued that these family members are not able to dedicate their time or energy or effort solely to take care of their senior members. But what happens to the elderly then? They might their children or their other family members, they might be busy because they have stated because of work or mental health or jobs or to take care of themselves. But what will happen to the elderly then when their possible last years are spent being taken care of, but by people they barely know? Ladies and gentlemen, panel of adjudicators, timekeepers, our proposition, people of the floor, and members of this house. I stand before you today as the first speaker hereby to oppose the motion, an idea of opposing the stigmatization of outsourcing elderly care in Asian societies. Now, before I start my two arguments, I will first rebut what the first speaker of the proposition side has said. The first speaker of the proposition side has said that these family members, they are busy with their work, with themselves, with their mental health, with their jobs, and adding this and having to take care of their elderly members will just add a burden to them, just another problem for them. However, how could you see the people who took care of you as a burden or a problem? Why wouldn't seeing them as a burden or a problem actually drive us further and alienate us further compared to how much further we are driven because this idea is stigmatized. Now, this is related to my first argument, which is giving back what they have given. So these elderly people, these said elderly members of our family, they have dedicated so many years of their lives to solely taking care of us. Whether they are physically tired or sick or mentally exhausted, they would still prioritize us and our well-being. Am I not wrong? There are no mothers or fathers on this earth that have not at least taken care of us. They have not taken care of us at least once. Am I not wrong? Now, the first proposition speaker also said just now that the stigmatization, the burden of the younger family members to have to take care of the elderly members is a burden and a problem. However, you could instead see it as a chance to bond and connect, instead of seeing it as something problematic to you or something burdening to you, because they are your family members anyway. They are your loved ones anyway. They are the people who have taken care of you for such a long time, and it would hurt very much to them for us to see them as a problem and a burden. Now, since they have mentioned that it is a problem and burden, they have failed to analyze or find another alternative solution. No, thank you. They have failed to analyze or find another alternative solution to outsourcing elder care in Asian societies. So instead of sending them to elderly care centers or elderly homes, we could instead find or hire a personal nurse to take care of them inside their own homes, so that even if these said family members, they are busy with work, they can still get help from these personal nurses instead of putting them in elderly care centers, where the responsibility on these elderly are put fully to the elderly care centers. So these family members, they can still check up on the elderly, they can still take care of them themselves, just with a little bit of help. Now, for my second argument, it is seniority in Asian societies. Now, elderly members and seniors in an Asian society or setting are seen as the very top of the hierarchy, the ones who deserve the utmost respect and obedience. Go ahead.
Does that mean you're going to justify parents referring their children as an infestation to accomplish your narrative that you're turning the favor to your parents?
When I say we have to give back what they have given, I'm not saying that we have to invest in our, the elderly have to invest in their children, or they have to give back something. But as a human being with a heart, or as a human being with a heart, we should at least feel bad or feel sad that we cannot take care of our own parents or our own elderly when it is them who have taken care of us. Because again, it is not about responsibility. It's not about how parents say that their kids are an investment. It's more like a humanity thing, because how are you able to see them as a burden when they have never seen you as a burden? How come you do not have the heart to take care of them when they have also taken care of you? Not instead of seeing them as an investment, it's more like returning the favor, I guess, something like that. Yeah. So for my second argument, as I've mentioned just now, it is seniority in Asian societies. Like I have mentioned, these elderly members are the very top of the hierarchy, and they are the ones who deserve the utmost respect and obedience. See, this tradition has gone on for many, many years, and for this tradition to die down, this could cause many problems in the Asian society or in the family as a whole, such as disrespect between senior family members and junior family members. This could also cause us to not feel responsible to them, responsible as in not us being an investment, but us treating them nicely, treating them with respect, and treating them and being obedient to them. That is what I mean, not as in children are investments to their parents. Now, that is me as the first speaker. My second speaker will re-strengthen and rebut our proposition, and my third speaker will reinforce and conclude our debate. This is why you must oppose. Thank you.
Any first propositions for the honorable remarks to continue the case of the propositions out of the debate? The second proposition speaker.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. I think the opposition cases is not clearly enough to characterize the Asian society. They're just portraying that the human, that that the portrayal of how you are going to be outsourcing it because you wanted to taken care of your elder because you are a human being. In this kind of debate, that you need to be characterizing you are a human in the condition that in the Asian society, how that is going to be in you to actually be reimbursing to your parents. Still, it's not clearly portray the characterization in their side. And even the second one is that how that they are talking about the people, the child itself being busy, dedicate onto that, and even the elder itself, it is not going to be nicely enough because they're being cared by someone else. Yes, that someone else is a highly trained person that actually doing nurses that actually taken care 24 hour, and because of that, in our side of the house, I think we're more likely to be happen. First of all, I will giving to you how that is not going to be stigmatizations through this justifying. First of all, how that the Asian society is going to be working is that when their elder itself is going to be giving to their child a tiger parenting. This means what? Tiger parenting itself is going to be pursuing through a lot of goals, a lot of dedications, meaning that you will having a course, or even that if you're not going to be getting a plus, that you are going to be scolded by your parents. This means that it is going to be forcing to you to having a much more grading jobs. It is going to be having you much more leading you into corporate jobs, or maybe even doctor, that going to be highly time sensitive for you to actually take care of your parents. This meaning that in the Asian society itself, how that you are going to be training people, how that you are going to be taken care, is not going to be having the time to occupying it, because those elder are the one that implemented those tiger parenting to you. This also fine to those elder, because of what? Because the elder seeing themselves as a successful child, successful children, because they have already been doing they have been successing on doing their tiger parenting. Because of that, I think there is not going to be much more incentive of how the elder itself wanted to themselves to be looking out for the children, because they saying, well, their children itself already fulfilling their goals. They have already be success, going to be into corporate jobs, or even pursuing marriage and have a child and then all. And then for the second one, it's about, worried about it is not going to be success. We are talking about middle class family, that a middle class family that that being having a child, but they have the capability, but they need to prioritize other things rather to just to be taken care this elder, because of why they already have a child, and because of how their family are in the conditions. They will be harder to actually taken care the child. They can taken care the child, and even to taken care those elder itself. Because of why? Two things in here. First of all, you need to taken care about how the children is going to be goals you're pursuing of all. Even that you will be getting some intervene through your elders, because your elder itself wanted to implicate the tiger parenting to your own the elder wanted to implicate it to your grandchildren, because you need to be taken care that elder, and because of that there will be the intervene of how will you going to be dictate your own child, and because of that this will be making your child itself is not your child will be forcing, and how the conditions of how your parents how your mom the mom and dad itself is going to be confused on how they going to be dictate each child. No, thank you. And because of that, and then second one is about how the elder going to be having prosperity, because they are in the middle class. Elder is characterized as a fragile, as the one that as the one that most likely to be having sickness symptoms and everything like that, because they are already fragile in the very first place. And because of that, more medical costs needed to be implemented to those elder. And because of this, you basically have both economical intervene to your family, and because of this, how that you could actually pursuing a great family with this kind of intervene. Yes.
You mentioned just now that these people that you were talking about are middle class with children to take care of, and they need money and they need to work, find these jobs. But does that really mean that we should leave these elders to be someone else's responsibilities? And these elderly homes, they're also.
I think because of how the oppression of how those economical going to be oppressing you, you have been to taken to give it your elder to someone else to be or sourcing it, because then you're not going to be fully implemented having to taken care your elder, because basically the elder itself could having some mental some having a medical problem, but you cannot be taken care of it because then it is out of your capability, and because it is going to be out of capability. And even that in our side, how that the family bonding is going to be having. The Asian societies is going to be glorified about how the legacy from their grandparents, legacy of their grandparents itself. Still that in our side of the house, still that there is the incentive itself. Okay, you are a middle class, but you are because of all your economical lacking of economy, that you are not going to be taken care of. That is going to be pointing out you're not going to be taken care of your elder, but then still that there is an incentive of how the legacy will be divided into your own child itself, because there is a dividing percentage of how that is going to be working. And because of that, still that in our side of the house, there are the incentive to taken care those elder itself, because you want to take that legacy. You wanted they are the one that doing contracts and all of that, because still that you are having you are having the incentive to actually looking up in their outsourcing place. And then the third of all, let's take into the extensions, the output itself, how that the elder is going to be basically elder itself have their own time, have their own capability itself, if they are not going to be if they are going to be gone in this world. Seemingly that in your side of the house, I think it is going to be costing more of a middle class, because then basically your elder is going to be gone in your own condition, but then you are going to be having more guilt because you cannot going to be protect them the most. You're having lacking of medical you're lacking about the economy itself, that you cannot provide your medical costs. It means that they are going to be getting disease symptoms and sickness or whatever is that, because you are kind of providing because you're not going to be providing your cost to that. I think the guilty is more into your side, even that you are going to be failing because you are not going to be having your own family in such a prosperity that your elder wanted. Your elder wanted that you are going to be success. Your elder wanted that you are going to be having family and stuff, but then you didn't fulfilling those goals. I think the guilty that is going to be in their side of the house through the law, maybe stuck in one of the 5 stages of grief and not going to be able to be comprehended that. But yeah, and then what do I have contributed? I have contributed that one, it is going to be justified how the tiger parenting and this whole perpetual cycle is going to be working, and how the elder itself are going to be consented if they are need to be or searching, because they see that their child is already great enough. Okay, for all of that to propose.
And second positions, but I want to remark to continue the case of the opposition side for the second opposition.
In the current globalized and internet-connected world, the status quo is the fact that children are working, possibly abroad, while their parents are retired or are not able to work. Another thing to base our debate off is the culture of Asian countries. Compared to the Western world, it has elements of tradition, respect that are profound and deep. And that is exactly what the analysis from the proposing team fails to notice specifically. But before we get to that, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to the honorable panel of judges, with the precise timekeeper, and wonderful members of the House. First of all, there are 2 things I want to do in this debate. First of all, I would like to give up my first argument, and for the second argument, I will be giving my argument as well, alongside my own rebuttals of both of the second speaker's argument. So first of all, you must understand the context first. So the problem here right now is children sending away their parents to elder care centers. Now the cause of that is most of the hours of the day, children are at home and at work, and are unable to be physically there to watch over or take care of their parents. Now, sending away these parents, elders to centers. The fact is that, now the base of our debate is the deep, profound connection that Asian countries have. The Chinese celebrate their New Year with festive energy and dragon dance. The Japanese have the formal tea ceremony, and in India and in Saudi Arabia, the father is the head of the family. This is hard to combat in and on itself because this is generations of belief and traditions. They believe, and we believe, that children should take care of their parents as they have taken care of them when they were little, when they were unable to walk, when they were unable to talk, when they were incapable of eating by themselves, exactly the conditions that these elderly have begun to experience. Of course, if there aren't any other way, contradictory to the first speaker's arguments, children can hire a personal assistant to take care of their parents. That is the alternative way. The second problem and the second argument is that there are cases where the elderly are abused in some way in elder care centers. Now how does that happen? Elders are generally less awake than when they are in their teen years or adult mature years. By that I mean that some elderly succumb to sickness that makes them vulnerable. It could be chronic or genetic. Even if they can be treated, then these people will be sent to the hospital for long-term treatment. The elderly that succumb to these sickness are multiple times more vulnerable to being abused in some way, and it could be for example, it could be inconsented drug intake that people, especially those who have Alzheimer's or dementia, wouldn't even remember. That's for brain condition. What about full body conditions like stroke, or simply when their legs couldn't support the weight of their own bodies anymore? They are as equally as vulnerable as the latter that I have mentioned. I'm not denying that there are higher personal assistants that are out there who abuse their power, that is physical superiority over these people that they have been paid to take care of, that is A, to watch over them, that is, for example, to rub ointments or massage them when sore, B, to feed them or cook for them, C, to clean the house. So in Indonesia, where middle-class families, as mentioned from the second speaker of the opposing team, middle-class families is common. Moreover, lower-class families, the practice of personal caretakers is much more common than those in elder countries, which brings up the sub-theme of employment. Typically, the types of workers that you hire as house caretakers, the term used for it in Indonesia is suri rumah, babysitters when parents can't be there for their children when they are still little and being little gremlins that they are, need a person to take care of them. The first proposition speaker did mention that we do not hire anyone that they do not know, but also works in favor to our case. And from the point of information that the proposing team attempts to give to our first speaker, she mentioned something about referring to these families as investments. So I think that saying that these families see their children as investments is deeply offensive to the fact that some parents generally just want children because they just want to have children. It's not it could be a planned family. It could be just simply these. They see their parents as good parents, and therefore they also want to have these good versions of themselves. Before that, any POIs? 3, 2, 1. Now, before I conclude my speech, let me ask you, dear judges, those with families even in the entire house, when you grow old, would you rather spend the rest of the days that you are counting with those that you've been living for decades, seeing their own first breath, nurturing and caring for them for decades even until you see their success, you see their work and everything, you see their talents, alongside their own little mini them, it as your own grandchildren or people that you've just met and grown with their own family to the point that the only spot left for you is for you to become simply their friend. And by that I shall conclude my speech. My third speaker will therefore conclude both of our speeches and therefore the entire debate.
Thank you very much for your attention and time.
Thanks, second opposition speaker, for the wonderful remark. Close the speech of the proposition side to call the third propositions.
Kak, ininya mati. Opposing stigmatization doesn't mean that you're making outsourcing elder care a compulsory action that you would take. Instead, side proposition want to refrain everyone from giving or given vilification towards their choice and action regarding taking care of their parents. One independent rebuttal before I start into clashes about abuse. They're so shallow that they only bring about, oh, what if they are going to be abused, etc. Three response to this. A, this is once in a million case, meaning that this is not really engaging the entire case of side proposition, right? But B, I think there exists in the status quo where check and balance with institution, meaning that if you're going to see some symptoms about, oh, about this problem, means that you can get into law. For example, my first speaker has already told you that. But see, I think it's not proposition's burden to actually clear this abuse or any problem in the outsourcing other care, right? I think our burden is just to giving you a justification that how is not going to be problematic or stigmatized for being taken care by outsourced, right? I think it's so asymmetrical burden that given by opposition, right? But before I start into clashes, then why is my POI back then were so important? I think the POI about infestation and is so important because we understand the characterization from Asian tiger parenting, for example, that is willing to give millions to their children just to get back trillions 10 years later, right? We think this is very problematic because we are going to be burdened, like my first speaker has already told you, that you're going to be burdened, for example, means that you have no such a big connectivity to your parents, for example, which leads to when your parents are going to be in outsourcing elder care, you are not even willing to give to see them, or even in the worst case, you are going to make to do something worse, for example. This is problematic in our side of the house because exactly we're not going to stigmatize this person to actually giving the giving them the elder care to the outsource, right? We are the only team that is consistent on our stance. I think the clash that is happening too much here is like the justification on then how it is going to be justified or not for you to stigmatize. But I think the most important clash here is like what both worlds will look like in both sides of the house, right? Because we always we have to see what kind of Asian society will react or will backlash into this, right? Because Asian society, as we've characterized, they're so much dependent on what people think. They're so much dependent on what stigmatized that happens in the current society, meaning that it will lead you to whether you are going to take action or not. That is going clearly characterized by side proposition only. But okay, I'm going to give you why this clash is win by side proposition. Inside of opposition, people are incentivized to taking care of their parents alone. If you're their children, you have to take care of your parents in their old age. I think why is this problematic? Because it's coming not from within, but because of the stigma. You're going to fear of the stigma to the fact that they're going to just not giving their all at max to the caretaking to their parents, exactly because they're embarrassed if their stigma hit them, right? Because they're going to like, oh, as long as my parents are seen in home, no matter how I would treat them, it is okay as long as I'm not going to be stigmatized. I think there's two analyses on how we should weigh this. Best case then, they will, okay, in best case of side opposition, they will be taken care, but they're going to be just but the children will like so busy for taking care for their children also, or like in the work, or yeah, the capitalistic system. I think it is still not good, right? Because you're just going to be at home, no activities, no really like taken care. But comparatively, in our best case, they're taken care. At least they're seeing their friends at their age, for example. I think when we're stigmatizing this, the people that will opt into this elder care elder care will be less, right? It means the wage the wage of this nurse will become less. I think it will go into no good service from the nurse, for example. Means you're going to be given like a bad service in the end of the day through the stigmatization, because no one is like want to get embarrassed, for example. I think it is harmful for the one that has given their parents into the caretaker before this motion even launched, right? Because they got no other options, because they're not so free, they're not so capable to caretaking their parents in the very first place. That's why on the practicality, they should have thought about the practicality and how then it is going to be like that. But I think on the worst case, right? I think they're not. The parents are not going to be taken care at max, to the point that they're going to be just like a hostile hidden in their home, for example. So as long as they're not in nurse in the outsourcing elder care, for example, because they are not going to be embarrassed, for example. We've already told you that. But on-site government, we said there will no stigmatization. We oppose the stigmatization, means that people will actually have a freedom to get your parents in, and they're not going to be ashamed just because they let their parents in, or eventually they're not going to be embarrassed for visiting their parents, because they are going to be just like, oh, it's a normal thing. But our proposition second speaker has already told you and characterized how then these parents are so fragile, right? You don't know what's they're going to be to have chronic symptoms, for example, and you're casually not there because you are on your working place, or you're taking care of your child. Why is this so important? Comparatively, on your side of the house, you pursue parents to be taken care by their own children. On our side, you're making sure people in the elder care be taken care even when they're not always there, which means we give the children solace to be guaranteed that the parents are going to take care and they're going to continue their work, for example. I think this is a win by side proposition and only proposition, right? But I think on our side, we have already proved to you why then we prevent conflict to the children and the parents, right? Because if you're having a conflict with your parents, your Asian parents, for example, you're not being liked by your mother-in-law, or for example, you're less likely to meet them that frequently. You means that the parents are going to be taken care, and seeing people their age, they're going to have given like activities, or like even when they're having symptoms, they can give it like first aid, for example. In our side of the house, we prevent like the conflict exacerbated in our side of the house, in which that the children are not even willing to taking care of their parents because of the conflict, and even if they're at the same home, which means side proposition is the only side which give you portrayal how then our world will look like, and we have prevented to you why then the harm is not as exacerbating as side opposition. That's why
I mean, the proposition speaker for the bottom of the remark, and to extend the case of the negative team, I call the proposition speaker.
I'd like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, members of the parliament, I stand today before you as the third speaker of the opposition to reinforce our stance on why we support the stigmatization of outsourcing elder care in Asian societies. Our first and second speaker has proven to you the bad effect that this will put in the Asian community dynamics. The proposition may argue that the children being busy or not being able to be taken care of in this child. We believe this is not entirely true. The Asian families in general tend to have a big family, and the other families can take care of the elder of their family. In this case, it is not possible, as well as they can simply hire a nurse. We've provided an alternative solution as to hire a nurse to be assigned. Now, why this would differ to putting them in elderly homes? The reason that is that the elder will be taken care of but still be in the circle of the family, meaning they wouldn't be distant to their family, but they would still have connections to their own family, and this would strengthen their family traditions. Now, this is the worst case, but it's very different to the motion of their side of the house. Ladies and gentlemen, what the proposition has failed to underline is the fact that we are talking about in this situation is that we're talking about the Asian family. They cannot argue that no matter what changes in the era that we're living in, it will not change the values of the Asian community. Now, the problem is that the Asian community is very, very different to the Western society. It is very traditional oriented, and we are taught humiliation and seniority based society. We have our belief on the situation, unlike in the Western world, where it is very justifiable to stick to what we stand for, in this case, tradition. Now, what is the effect of this? Let's put ourselves in the position of the elders who put their blood, sweat, and tears in the growth of their child. Like we said, like our first opposition said before, the feelings, the mental capacity of these elderly that would have to experience seeing their child pulling them in their elderly homes instead of being together with their families. Now, objectively speaking, this puts distance to the unity of the family, that is the Asian community, meaning that the parents would be more distant to the child or their grandparents to the grandchildren. Now, before I move on, I would like to rebut on a few points that the proposition has stated. The first speaker of the proposition has stated that the parents would be feeling alienated, or the children would be feeling alienated, which is not true. Which, in fact, we believe that if they were to put their parents in their elderly home, that is what would cause the distance. No, thank you. And they're raising the stigma, and the fact, they're talking about why this stigma happens, and the fact is, it's not as simple as what they're talking about. They're talking about how the stigma is dangerous and whatever, but we're talking about the Asian community, which is based off of tradition, and they haven't proven as to why mentally these elder people are actually more happier and more they're more they're better in the nursing homes rather than being with their children at home. We find that putting them in this nursing home actually adds distance. Now, what's the difference with putting the children in the parents in the nursing home and the at home, when you say that they're professionals or whatever, but they're not doctors? So either in the worst case scenario, if they get sick, what's the difference? The people in the elderly homes would still have to call the doctor, right? So I find that there's no difference with putting them at home. Go ahead.
Most likely, but a big family will accept the elder, but even if you're still like do not want to take care of them, it means something wrong, right? Why would I, as the auntie, will take care of them? Personally.
Because they have the obligation to, as the family. As I said, we're talking about the Asian community. The Asian community is very traditional, it's very family based. So if one person of the family does not want to take care of the family, it is the obligation of the other family members to take care of it. Moving on, they haven't mentioned they've only mentioned that the middle class are the ones that in general are putting people in the nursing home. Now, why this is contradictive is because the middle class would have to take care of the family, their elders, then have to take care of the younger. This puts their economy into jeopardy because putting these elderly into nursing homes also need money. They also need this all these different finances that they need to put into these elderly homes. So they're also putting money for these elderly homes, and they're also putting out money to take care of the younger ones. Now, what's the difference? If you were to put the elderly in the home, you wouldn't have to spend as much money if you were to as if you were to put them in the elderly home. Now, let's identify the clash for today's debate. Now, we have identified that is whether or not it is justifiable. She or he said when they say that it is justifiable, when we say it is not justifiable. Now, they have failed to they have failed to prove why it is justifiable. They've only said that they're because they're professionals or whatever. But we have proven why this mentally is not this is not good for the elderly. And one more thing that they have failed to characterize is the subject in this debate, which is the Asian countries. They have generalized the subject, while we have closed it to be exclusively Asian countries. Why this is contradictory on their side? They keep referring to the stigma and not dive to the culture, which is the cause of what you would call the stigma in the first place. Now, in conclusion, we do not support the outsourcing of the elderly, of the elder care in the Asian society. What we have brought to the table is the logical and psychological reasons as to why we do not condone these acts. What they have failed to do is bring forth a reasonable argument on why these children, the children are justified to send their parents to the nursing home. That is why we urge you to vote for our side. Thank you very much.
Thanks to the opposition speaker for the wonderful remark. Now, to sum the case of the opposition case as a whole, I call the negative reply.
Nggak bisa. Nggak bisa dibuka.
Okay.
Thank you. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, panel of educators and members of this wonderful house, as our debate is coming to an end, I would like to highlight the key points of our speeches and the reasons why we urge you to vote for opposition and why we should win this debate. Number 1, the stigmatization of outsourcing elderly care will let children or the younger members of a family, like I said, give back what they have been given, not in a sense that children should be investments and people in families should have children so that they can give millions and earn back trillions, not in an investment way. But instead, these children and these said juniors or younger members of a family should have a feeling of responsibility and loyalty to their family members. Let me ask, as a child, there is no way you as a human being with feelings would not feel bad for not taking care of the people who have dedicated most of their life to us, right? This stigmatization does not mean children are investments and it would just be another burden or problem to these children. Rather, we should, as human beings with empathy and sympathy, at least feel a sense of responsibility to the people who have sacrificed so much for our lives and well-being. Number 2, let us look into the POV, the point of view of if we were to become the elderly people, the elderly members of the family. Imagine we are in our last possible years of living, and instead of being taken care of by our loved family members who we have known for our whole lives or most of our lives, we are being taken care of by these so-called highly trained professionals inside the elderly care centers or elderly homes. However, even if they are highly trained professionals, wouldn't you prefer, as someone who is less able, since you are already an elderly member, to be taken care of by your loved family member so that you have the time and chance to bond and connect for the last moments of your life? Am I right? Um, Other than that, like what my second speaker mentioned earlier, there is a chance of abuse in the elderly homes. Now, even if proposition argued that it is a 1 in a million chance, that does not mean it will not happen. And other than abuse, other than drugs, like what proposition mentioned was shallow, other things can happen, like something that does not classify as abuse, but instead assault and disrespect to these elderly members, because these elderly homes, they do not only have the actual workers, but they also have volunteers who may be young or who may be not as knowledgeable as the actual workers, that could possibly hurt them or disrespect them or assault them, whether it is knowingly or unknowingly. Other than that, they also mentioned that these are middle class children who have children who have children, and they have to work and also have a job. But elderly homes, they also have to pay, and they are also sometimes expensive. So why not take the responsibility for our own? That is us as the opposition. We are. This is why you must oppose. Thank you very much.
And the opposition to comply with the speech and to summarize the case for call, also to close the debate as a whole.
Start the debate. Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In the opposition cases that they have been failed to actually providing to you, why do we need to be stigmatized this outsourcing the elders, this elder care itself to the caretaker and stuff? They couldn't provide how this could be beneficiable, even that they have been failed to portraying Asian society, but they were just going to be portraying as a human being living on your own and not having any communal or any identities at all. It's just going to be you with your own nature, your own norms, how that you need to be respecting this elder. They didn't have any nuances of how this Asian society will be portrayed in their side. First of all, let me telling you about how that is not going to be costly enough. Seemingly that in ourselves, in what we are going to prove into you, yes, which one of it is much more relaxing, much more reliable onto those certain of family, because they need to be taken care of their child, they need to be taken care of their elder. Seemingly that maybe those nursing is also going to be expensive, but then in our side of the house, in their side of the house, it also become expensive. So in this debate, which one of the side of the house is going to be providing you win-win solution for the family itself, for the child, the prosperity, the family, and going to be even the elder itself? Because you are going to be taken care of them, you need to taken care of their medical costs, because you haven't going to be provided them much more likely medicines and all of that. You could actually be preventing of how medical is going to be happen in the elder if they are in the caretaker. And then second one, they're just always going to be obey about this highly trained caretaker. They're just thinking that maybe it is going to be a volunteer of all of that. Seemingly that they have doing the train, they have been doing contracting, how that they are going to be a caretaker in that place itself. And basically there will not going to be any abuse, there will not going to be any of that, because why would even there is an incentive itself how that you are going to be abusing those parents or what? Similarly in our side of the house, highly trained caretaker is just only to actually taken care, or mainly just wanted to be volunteering of how that they are going to be taken care the elder itself. And then 3, they are just going to be talking about about how that is going to be likelihood to be cater to other family. Seemingly how that you are going to be taken, other family will be taken care into yours if you are not going to be care enough on your own family. There is just fallible logic about how that you are going to be taken care of other family. Yes, it is big, but then their own family have their whole burden of how they want it to be taken their family, and because of that, that's not going to matter. And the fourth of that, we have been justifying to you, they characterize to you what is an elder and how that is going to be. They're fragile, they're needing medical costs, they're having symptoms and disease that more likely to be happen to them, and because of that, it will be much more emergency taken by the caretaker itself, because they have been viewing in them 24-hour, and because of that they will having much more prosperity or even more longer time to live in this world, and could be actually be visited by their own family, and not going to be having much more faster much more hasten their dying in their life. And then yeah, we have been contributed to you how that there is how that in our side of the house the stigmatized itself should be deleted, should be praised, how because it's not going to be beneficial at all. It's just going to making those middle class family who have the perpetuated cycle of how the tiger parenting should be working, that going to be implemented even is going to be intervened those child itself that need to be educated. And because of that, in our side of the house we have the proven, and the stigmatized no should be perished. Because of that, proud to prop.
I thank both teams for wonderful speeches. Now debaters may cross floor and shake hands, and please leave the debater's room first, as the judges have a humbling process. Thank you.